This week, instead of looking at one party, I'll be looking at two similar parties, the Australian Christians, aka AC, and the Christian Democratic Party, aka CDP. This video isn't about Christianity or the Bible, just the two parties, their policies, and their values. The first part of their website I am looking at is their values page. Both make it clear that they want to keep a lot of values from our heritage, mainly our Judeo-Christian heritage. I think respecting and understanding our heritage can be good, but I don't think it's good to always stick to old values in government. If we were to always follow our heritage, our old values and ways, we would never grow or change as a government or culture. We wouldn't be in a democratic society as our nation wouldn't have grown into it. Xenophobia and sexism would still exist in government, and we would stagnate. However, other than that, most of their values page I can agree with. They both support justice, peace, and expressive freedom. Next, there are their policies. The first policy I have a problem with is the education policy. They split up here a bit, but they do agree on one thing. The CDP's education policy is good for the first part, but I have questions for the second part. To what point are parents allowed to have a say in their child's education? Can they ignore what their child wants to learn? How much of the curriculum can they choose to ignore? This is very up in the air and could be taken as almost anything. Without focus or detail, this could do a lot of damage to the education system. The other thing I think could go wrong is the scripture class. There's no way you can teach every religion or religious subgroup. So what do you choose? Christianity is the biggest religion at the moment, but Hinduism and Islam are growing quickly. So do you choose the three? Then you must choose the subgroups. Christianity alone has thousands of subgroups. Do you have Jehovah's Witnesses, the LDS Church, along with Catholic belief systems being taught? How do you choose? You can't do every religion and sub-religion. There's just way too many. My problem with the AC's education policy is the fact parents get to choose a school that confirms their beliefs no matter how messed up they are. Don't get me wrong, I think people should be able to choose a school that agrees with most of, if not all of their beliefs, but not any belief. There should be a minimum standard of morals that schools can't break. These things should be things like sexism and racism, things like saying women can't do certain jobs or shouldn't work. Because if people can do it, people will, and we will have a more sexist and racist society. The one thing they do agree upon is to remove the Safe Schools program. If you don't know, the Safe Schools program is a program that allows any school to access resources to teach or help members of the LGBT plus community. A lot, if not all, public schools have signed up to it at some level. I do agree there are problems with the Safe School program. However, signing up to it doesn't mean the school has to or does teach sexual education. Some public schools just have it as a resource that children can access if they want to. So, although I can see why you might want to change it, it can still do a lot of good. Now, going with the LGBT theme, both parties want to remove the policy that allows gay couples to marry. The CDP argument is that our culture didn't allow it in the past, people from other cultures and religions don't want it, a broad section of people don't want it, and it's not stable democratically or socially. If you don't know, Australia had a nationwide vote to change the National Marriage Act to allow same-sex couples to marry. It got the majority vote. This means that the argument of a broad section of people wanting it doesn't make sense. The majority of Australians want it or are okay with it. Another problem is the stability argument. They give no sense or source that gay marriage is socially unstable. And with the majority in favor of gay marriage, wouldn't it be more democratically unstable to ignore the majority? The argument that our culture in the past did it, and other groups do it so we should, also doesn't work. At one point, almost every known culture and religion had a monarchy that held all or most power. At that point, a monarchy had been in control for hundreds of years. Only a few influential nations had a republic, and even then, a lot of them still had powerful families ruling the nations, like a monarchy. If we used that argument in the past, we would still be in a monarchy. We would have stayed the same and wouldn't have grown. The AC has similar claims and logic. They say it's sad that it's been redefined, but don't say why it's sad or what the potential consequences are. They also say other people and previous generations only had traditional marriage, but again, just because other people did it or the past did, doesn't mean it's a good thing to do. The last sentence has them calling it the natural family. While humans aren't the only species that have homosexual individuals, links in description. They also end it in a quote from a historical person, Roosevelt, and again, just because people did it or didn't do it in the past doesn't mean we should or shouldn't now. Another part of their website says that children deserve the important roles both a mother and father serve in their development, but they never say why a homosexual couple couldn't be as good as a heterosexual couple or anything like that. They just say they are. I can agree with the rest of the CDP's policies, but they're very general and broad. Most of the other policies saying they'll review things or they will pursue policies to do something without saying what policies they want to change, why they want to review it, or anything really concrete. The AC also has this problem, but to a lesser extent. I also disagree of more of what's said. I personally think euthanasia is fine in a few cases, where the patient can't be made comfortable, is in pain, can't be cured or medicated of their problem, the problem is fatal, and the person volunteers for it. The reason why I believe that is because it's a death or death situation, and euthanasia is less painful and uncomfortable compared to making them go through the painful and uncomfortable experience just to end up in the same place. Now, they believe we should never have euthanasia, and they have 5 dot points for this. The first saying we should use palliative care, which is removing or reducing pain and discomfort. And I agree with this. We should try to remove and reduce pain and discomfort before euthanasia is taken. But what about if that's not possible? What if we can't reduce the pain or discomfort to decent levels? Then wouldn't euthanasia be more reasonable if the patient is okay with it? Next, they say it's our responsibility to care for people, and we shouldn't desert them when they need help. I can agree with this. We shouldn't just kill someone. But euthanasia can be done with consent. We aren't making the decision for them and leaving them there. The third thing they say is that we can't be 100% sure that it is safe, efficient, or that they consent to it, and as such, we shouldn't do it. Let's put this to something else. Blood transfusions. Generally, blood transfusions are safe and save lives. However, they are not 100% safe or efficient, and there are people who don't want to do it. But we still do it because most of the time it works, and most people who say they want one want one. But I don't see wanting to ban that for the same reason. The next point is about accidental deaths. They say that if euthanasia is allowed, people who don't want euthanasia will die from it. This makes little sense. If we have voluntary euthanasia, then we aren't going to purposely kill people who don't want it. If you think doctors are going to kill them by giving them the wrong thing, then you have a problem with a lot of drugs and medical procedures. I don't really know what they mean. That doesn't also mean you need to stop other drugs or medical procedures. Final dot point makes no sense to me at all, unless they forgot the voluntary element. They say we shouldn't let one man's individual rights trample another's, but euthanasia can be done and should be voluntary. How is someone willingly taking euthanasia going to trample somebody else's rights? It doesn't. Next part they get into more detail for what they say, so I might understand what they're saying. The first part they say is if we legalize voluntary euthanasia, it could lead to involuntary euthanasia or more killings, as we have less safeguards to stop it. This is called the slippery slope argument. The problem of the slippery slope argument is that it can be used to stop any change. Let's take women's rights for example. If a policy or bill came into debate that increased women's rights, then the slippery slope argument could be used to say we shouldn't give women more rights, as eventually they might ask for more rights than men, even if that women's rights is a right men have. The problem is anyone can use it for almost anything, no matter how good the change is, and as such it isn't a really good argument. This part compares your euthanasia to aided suicide, saying that if we support euthanasia, then people feel more likely to commit suicide. This doesn't make much sense, as we can put rules in place to make it so that it's not just the choice, but also needs to be accompanied by a painful, deadly, and incurable medical problem that can't be made painless. If we did something like that, then it wouldn't convey that message. The final part describes in greater detail about the individual rights thing. First, they're saying it is selfish to stop oneself from suffering a prolonged and painful death and instead choose a shorter and painless death when you want to. They are saying it is selfish to choose what you want to do with your own body. Secondly, they say that minimizes the vulnerability of others, which sounds good. They then decide to give a list of 3 things that should be considered when talking about autonomy. I agree fully with the first 2, but they don't work with voluntary euthanasia. The first is the rights of others, which I have shown that voluntary euthanasia doesn't tread on the rights of others. The second is public safety, which again I have said that voluntary euthanasia doesn't pose a public safety problem any more than some other medical processes we use. And finally, God, which is fine if you don't go breaking the first 2 rules and do let people do what they want to some level. The rest of the page on euthanasia comes up with good points for why we shouldn't have euthanasia that isn't based on the willingness of the patient and why we shouldn't just go to euthanasia first, but it doesn't disprove euthanasia as a whole. When the page doesn't do that, then there isn't really an argument. They also have policies that I haven't talked about, so I recommend you look at them yourself. This is my opinion on the 2 Christian parties. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day.